Michaela Chester with NCAA Digital, joined by Stan Becton, our FCS beat reporter. He just filled out his FCS bracket, the 2022 tournament coming up. So let's go through your entire picks all the way down to the champion, Stan. We'll start with the first and second round. What are the most notable matchups? Let's see your picks.
Yeah, so the first round, the most notable matchup for me has to be looking at one of those last at-large teams in Montana, surprisingly. They get to play Southeast Missouri State at home, but both of those schools could be without their starting quarterbacks. But I still think Montana wins that game if both quarterbacks are out. Now, if one quarterback is in and the other is out, it could change my pick. But right now I'm going to go with Montana. And then another game in that first round that's really interesting to me is Elon Furman. That one can go either way, but I really like that Matthew McKay, Jalen Hampton backfield for Elon to get that win. And then moving on to that second round, at the top, South Dakota State, number 1 seed. They get a Delaware team that is talented. They were in the top 10 at earlier points in this season, but it's a Delaware team that has dealt with injuries. And because of that, I have to give South Dakota State the win there. Elsewhere, you got a couple rematches, Holy Cross Fordham, Montana State, Weber State. Those should be good rematches. I have Holy Cross winning its rematch, winning 2 games against Fordham. But I have Weber State getting the upset over Montana State in that second round. Why? Because I think Weber State won't have 4 safeties. Yes, they had 4 safeties from punts in that earlier season matchup. That's an 8-point swing right there for Weber State. I think Weber State gets the job done. So those are some of the games to watch in my first and second rounds.
All right, let's move on to the third round and take a look at your bracket here. What were the toughest to pick in this round? I'm sure you've got some upsets here.
Yes, I have some upsets in that third round, that quarterfinal round. First upset would be UIW Sacramento State. I have UIW beating Sacramento State. Both of these teams have great offenses. UIW has Lindsey Scott Jr. He's likely a Walter Payton Award finalist, putting up prolific numbers. But then you have a 2-headed quarterback system at Sacramento State that's also putting up great scoring numbers. But I think when it's all said and done, UIW's offense has just been more consistent throughout the year, and I think UIW gets that upset. Number 7 seed beating the number 2 seed in that quarterfinal round. Elsewhere, I have North Dakota State. Of course, I got to talk about them. They are going to beat Sanford in that quarterfinal round in my bracket. And then William and Mary. Some people might not consider that an upset with them beating Weber State, but I think some people will consider that an upset, William and Mary beating Weber State. Even though William and Mary will be the seeded team, I think some people might have Weber State favored in that matchup. So those are some of my quarterfinal matchups.
All right, moving on to the good stuff, down to the last couple of teams here. What are your picks for the semifinals? Who are your top 4 teams advancing this year?
Yeah, my top 4 teams advancing this year would be South Dakota State, William and Mary, North Dakota State, and UIW. And then from there, advancing to that title game, I have South Dakota State, North Dakota State. I think when North Dakota State, if they meet UIW, I think North Dakota State showed time and time again, year after year after year, that defense can shut down prolific offenses. And I think they'll do that to advance to that final game from that semifinals. And then at the top of the bracket, I have South Dakota State beating William and Mary. South Dakota State is one of the most talented teams in the country from top to bottom. They have great quarterback play, running back play, receiver play, tight end play, defense. They have interior defense, secondary. They just have so much talent on that team. I think that talent prevails, gets them to that national championship game.
And finally, Stan, who's your national champion pick? What do you got?
Yes, this game, if this national championship game happens, South Dakota State, North Dakota State, it might be one of the most popular national title games ever. You have a Dakota marker. It won't be for the Dakota marker. They've already established that if they meet in the postseason, that trophy stays whoever won that regular season game. But you have another rematch between those 2 teams, South Dakota State, North Dakota State. South Dakota State has beat North Dakota State more than any other team in the country during this title run, this dynasty for North Dakota State. And I think they do it again in the national championship game. They continue that winning streak over the Bison. The Jackrabbits finally get over the hump and win their first ever FCS title.
All right. The entire 2022 FCS bracket filled out. Stan, thanks for breaking it down. Excited for the tournament.
Thank you.